planning this lesson, I used a couple different resources. So obviously used the Ontario curriculum as a starting place. And I also used the Guide to Effective Instruction. So my students had already done a problem that I had modified from the guide around the idea of surface area, so the Chocolongo problem. I had modified that problem and we had just looked at calculating surface area with that problem. So prior to today, they had an understanding of what surface area was before doing this problem. So I looked at the guide at the next set of problems within there and made some decisions about where to go with the students today. And then I looked at something that would be engaging for my students, so trying to make it meaningful for them. So the context that we are an eco-friendly school and that we're a healthy school, so I tried to bring both those ideas in terms of engagement, something that they would be interested in solving. I think the reason why students are better able to retain or hold on to the concepts is that they have a context to help them with that. So the fact that they can refer to the chocolate bar problem or the problem that we did with the food drive or the problem that we did with the skating rink, they can make that connection between the context of the problem and the work that they did on that day to help them better remember. And so often kids will say that. They won't say, well, do you remember this about area? They'll say, do you remember when we did this with the skating rink? So that's it helps them to remember what they learned today.
It's kind of like elaborating on what Georgia said, because so then we don't draw it out or something with the chocolate bars.
Well, we talked about some strategies with the chocolate bars, didn't we? And one of the things that we talked about the other day was some different strategies, right? And we talked about Tanner's strategy, where Tanner didn't draw out all the sides of the chocolate bar, right? But what did we decide had to happen?
I had to be careful with my math, so it wasn't so it was clear.
In terms of every child being successful, there's a few things to think about when you're planning. One of the things you can do is creating a parallel task if you think that the numbers are going to be a problem. Today they were working with the number 24, so I thought that number would be a fairly friendly number to the students, and we did the string warm-up at the beginning to kind of get them thinking about that number 24 as well. But if it were a situation where that weren't the case, they could do two tasks at the same time, and you can just differentiate that instruction where different students have different tasks. Also making an extension. So when they complete the first part of the problem, there is a second extension for students to do to challenge their thinking if necessary. So the kids that kind of fly through the problem will have an extension to work on as well. What makes a good partnership? What are we going to be working on today? Ed?
Cooperating with your partner.
Okay.
Making sure you're staying on task so you're not fooling around with your partner or other partners.
Both people contribute, so they both do the work.
Yeah, and not so one person doesn't do all the work, you have to share the work equally.
Yeah, it's like a partnership instead of it being individual. Yeah, it doesn't make sense if you write it and the other person just says it.
Our class became like this because we've made success criteria, and she spends her time and writes down all these charts, and not just in math, we do it for literacy and stuff, and then she hands it up for us to use and look at if we're ever stuck.